Hello and welcome everyone to Amber Lida's YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us. My name is Tamara Howell and I'm a guest here on Amber's channel as we record about all things therapist to therapreneur. And we are going to be talking today about building relationships in surprising places. So Amber, do you want to say hi?
Hello, Tamara is being a little mischievous because we have talked repeatedly about this particular piece of the YouTube channel being ours and not mine. So she's being a little tongue in cheek. I'm Amber Lida, and I run the online therapist group on Facebook. And I also help therapists to become therapreneurs and make income outside of the therapy room.
Fantastic. So I had this idea that we could talk about building relationships in surprising places because I recently went to an in-person conference and I've done like a whole big debrief about that somewhere else. But I was thinking about the relationships that I've built there have already sort of, how do you say, like flourished or
Bloomed
blossomed? I
into
don't know,
something.
very yeah, exactly. We build relationships in places that we don't even know. So a lot of the time we put our effort into social media, we go into Facebook groups, we talk about professional networking, but sometimes it's very surprising when we can get a connect. And that was my experience last week that I connected with people like in very surprising ways and, some of that was about like I had awesome swag, I had a stand, I presented, and that's not normal for me. Like I don't do that in lots of spaces. I like to, but it's just not something I put a lot of effort into doing. And I've connected with loads of people. You know that like 14 of my lotties and poddies who are people who were in my programs came also to the conference.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah, so they also connected with each other. So, we can also kind of make this spider web of continuous connection. So I thought that that was a really, that's a good topic. A lot of the time, people don't want to put a lot of effort into marketing and things that don't look like they're going to pay off straight away. But we never know when we're going to have follow up and continuation. What are your thoughts?
I completely agree. And I'm going to, in a moment, ask you for examples of what you mean by those relationships. As an introvert, I would like to know exactly how did that happen? Like, what did you talk about? How did it lead to something? And something that I talk about a lot for people building a is this idea that you can make relationships in surprising places. And that sometimes we have to step out of the kind of traditional networking box and just think about having relationships and not networking. And so the example that I always give, which feels uncomfortable to give on YouTube, even though I've given it in Facebook a million times, but I'm gonna just go for it. Hi, strangers. I'm about to tell you something embarrassing. So I am a sharer and I get excited about sharing things. So that's your context if you don't know me. I was at my gynecologist's office. I hate going. I get anxious. I don't like it. So I'm a babbler when I'm anxious. And so here I am, you know, in the position, babbling away. And she's like, "Are you nervous?" I'm like, "Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, I am." And she's like, "Well, that would be weird if you weren't, like nobody likes to come here." She was very wonderful. And so then it naturally led into a conversation where I was like, I'm sure I'm not the only one that gets anxious. Like, how do you handle that with other clients? And our patients. And she's telling me about all the things that she does and how the different forms of anxiety present. And I started getting an idea. And I was like, well, I could make you some like audio files or some YouTube videos or something that are like deep breathing or something like that that could help calm people down. I could just give you a QR code and they could do it on their phone instead of just looking at this, how they always have the thing, like the child thing that you put above the bed. What
Yeah.
is it called?
Mobiles?
Yeah. Yeah. They always have the mobiles. Like they could watch a YouTube video instead. She's like, that's an awesome idea. And then a referral relationship was born because I stepped out of, kind of ego and trying to present in a certain way and just had a natural conversation. and it was about her and her experience of having anxious patients. And then what could I do to help those patients? So definitely a surprising place to build a networking relationship,
Absolutely. Yeah,
but
I've
it
done that.
works.
I've done that too. I've done that. Dermatologist. Often talk about my dermatologist, physiotherapist, psychiatrist, of course,
Dentists.
dentist, dentist. I once referred someone to a dentist and I prepped them beforehand that they had a fear of dentists and we worked together to support that person.
Mhm.
Dentist. So they got someone from me. Yeah, loads, those are such great opportunities and obviously really surprising when
You leave the appointment.
you're there for a checkup.
Right, right. Yeah, absolutely. So tell me some of these examples from your experience at the conference. Because my brain's like, what kind of small talk would I make? Like I'm the person who
Oh,
goes to the bathroom because I'm like, oh, I want to avoid the small talk part of this.
I do think it's a skill. Going to an in-person conference, I've not done it for a few years, going to an in-person conference and going around the stands, and because it can feel very cliquey
Yes.
and or clicky if I'm speaking American. And but it can feel, a bit exclusive and a bit like everyone knows each other. And so I do think having some sort of things that you pull out of out your pocket to get the conversation started. So we want to approach everything like we approach our marketing online from a place of service. So if this was an addiction treatment center, addiction treatment conference. So if there's an addiction treatment center, then I want to know, who can I send there? So this is always my first question. So who can I send to you? I'm not saying I've got anyone. I'm just saying
Mhm.
who would be appropriate?
Mhm.
Who's not going to be a great fit? Who should I take somewhere else? Oh, you don't see teenagers. Okay, good. That's great to know. You don't see under 18s. So and then really, I mean, I'm maybe a little bit more bold than most people starting conversations with in places like that. But I'll ask stuff like, do you love your job?
Mhm.
Do they treat you well? Does the management treat the staff well? Do you get breaks? Are you supported? Do you get supervision? What's the continuity like? No, 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 no. Is your career supported? So maybe I'm
Mhm.
a bit more nosy, and that's a bit more of once you get into getting to know someone and a bit more casual. But that tells me information about whether I want to send my client somewhere, you know?
Yes. Yes. And
So
it's making the conversation about that person and about their
exactly.
feelings and their experience, which, most people really like to share that.
Absolutely. So I'm less interested in what's in the daily schedule for clients in an inpatient setting and more about what are the values and what do we share and how can I get to know people. And I think that's kind of the same whether it's in person or whether it's online. And when I was there, my stand was for Therabundle and my swag, which will not surprise you, I'm sure, was vegan soap with little Therabundle thingies, was
Yeah.
was little those the seed paper, paper with seeds embedded with Therabundle written across them that you can plant in compost. And little material sort of seed packets, like wildflower seeds wrapped in pretty floral material. And everything went. All my signs were written on bits of cardboard because I don't want to waste. And so people were talking about it, but also that's my vibe, you know? That's it's very much like me. It's very much like it's all about the nature and the growing and the sustainable and the ethical and blah, 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 blah. And so you can come and talk to me about my swag rather than my business. And you may
Mhm.
not care about Therabundle, but now you're going home with 3 seed packets and you're going to think about it later, you
I
know?
love it. I
And you're
love
gonna
it.
know me, you know? So there's all these possibilities, and I've already had 2 people get in touch with me for Zoom conversations to see how we could they don't even know how we can work together. They're just like, "Hey, let's talk about how can we collaborate?"
Mhm.
I've already had, um, I've already I mean, it w it feels really silly to say this, but anyway, I won an award while I was there,
I
and so I So I've had lots of people emailing me to say, like, congratulations, that's so amazing. Can you tell me more about this, that, and the other? I've had lots of people emailing me and being like, hey, I saw your video about this. Do you know, are they doing one next year? So there's loads of communication opportunities have opened up for me just by going. And I didn't even have anything to sell.
Mhm. Mhm. I love that you put your personality into the swag
Mm.
because that creates like a totally additional layer of conversation that you could be having.
Right.
That's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. I love it. And you guys, if you don't have something to bring people to the table, they're going to keep on walking because, they want either engagement, like you can have games or cool swag or whatever, that is so smart. Your brain's like, what would I
I I had conversation starter cards as well. So I was like, pick a card, and they had like questions on there, like, what's your favorite season? Or like name five. I mean, people were doing this with me. They were coming up to the table, taking the thing and going, name five circles that you can see in the room, and going, that's a circle, that's a circle, that's a circle, that's a circle, that's a, and then we were talking about it. It was awesome. It was awesome. It was so fun. And some of those people have like, they've written, they've asked like where I got things. I mean, honestly, my inbox is like at the
wow.
moment. So, and I have no idea where those things will go. One person already said that they would promote Therabundle. Someone else has asked me about sponsoring Therabundle. So they literally don't even know what it is. There is nothing. The website was not even functional when I was there.
I love it. And something that I'm hearing, you are like in it. You're like in the spirit of the thing. Like you are alive in your business right now. And y'all, we go through seasons of being like really lit up and really like I'm friggin' tired and I don't even want to think about it, right? I can feel how lit up you are in your business right now. And I think that that comes through. How are you? I know this is like a slight subject change, but I think it makes a
Okay.
difference when we're building relationships, particularly in novel situations. Because when I think about the novel situations that have resulted in, some relationship or whatever, they've always come from times when I've been particularly lit up, like I'm sitting at a bar and start talking with the bartender about mental health issues or, and then she's talking about her sister. And then I'm like, oh, I have a great therapist to connect you with, and then she's like, well,
Yeah.
let me get your number so that I can call you if I have other people who need therapists. I'm like, okay, cool. So how did you get to the lit up place and how did you bring it with you to that event?
So interesting. Well, what I did was I got incredibly stressed and anxious for a long period of time, and I complained every single day, and I left everything until the last minute so that I had like quite a high level of adrenaline, I think. Or so very dysregulated. I mean, if I'm really honest, I think that's what happened. And I mean, there's some other factors. I had a vitamin D and a vitamin B injection the week before. So that helped.
Yes.
I had some sleep on my, like a good few good nights sleep,
Mhm.
new outfit.
Mhm.
I met people that I've been working with for years that I've never met before. So I was really like, how do you call it? Like quite loved up with affection. And I mean that sounds really lovey-dovey, but what I mean is just like connection, like that kind of connection. And so what I would say is like I had all these ideas and I kind of knew what I wanted to do. And there was quite a lot of panic involved, if I'm honest. But the connection has maintained the ideas. I don't know, I might crash next week. I've no idea. But there's something about meeting new people and getting new ideas that brings more new ideas and more ability to meet new people. So I'm actually more able to reach out to people now because I'm resourced by and fulfilled by the connections that I've made. Does that make sense?
1000%. Like the
Okay.
reinforcement that you get from that like cycle of connection is very, very motivating. So in a coaching call yesterday, I was talking with somebody who was sharing a fear that I've heard many, many times, which is I'm actually kind of afraid that I will get too many leads, too many clients, too many emails, blah, blah, blah. Almost like energetically, I'm afraid that I will get overloaded. When in fact, what usually happens is that you get more energy from those. And then we're talking about like learning to have boundaries. I think there's
Totally.
almost like a lack of trust in themselves that if success comes their way, if these relationships come their way, then they're not going to be able to handle it. And so they don't take the steps to put themselves in those situations.
Absolutely. I have those fears of too much being asked of me, of not being able to say no, of like constantly doing, can you see the light?
Yeah.
Of like constantly wanting to do things, for people. And sometimes occasionally I have done that at my expense. But I do think we have to learn a level of trust, with ourselves and kind of check in with ourselves pretty often. But I think that's such a good point and a great way of articulating it, that energy sort of begets energy, you know? And that I feel energized because of the energy that has been shared with me. And I was feeling quite flat and a bit lost and a bit like, why am I even doing this?
Rin?
And a bit like, have I got my finger in too many pies? I'm a bit too all over the place. It's a bit too spidery. I'm not really sure what I'm doing next. And then just kind of getting to a place of, because the more you talk in person, the more people you talk to, the more clear you get in explaining yourself.
Yes.
At the beginning of the conference, I didn't make any sense when people said to me, "What is Therabundle?" And by the end of it, it was much more, I don't know if it made sense, but I had like a tight 2 sentences.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
You get better by being in those situations, and that is energizing in itself.
Yes. That is a great place for us to wrap up. Because I think that if you get so protective of your energy, you end up robbing yourself of the things that inspire and motivate and energize you. And we can always, slow down. So we can always say no to new clients. We can always say no to new ventures. We can always, put a governor on things. But I have noticed for sure in my own professional life that the more I kind of withdraw, the less inspired I feel. And, learning how to have that balance, I think only comes with the practice of putting yourself in those situations.
Yeah, I think that's lovely, lovely note to end on. And I guess I just want to add the caveat that, I don't consider myself an extrovert. I have like in person quite a high level of anxiety. And so it's not that I find it easy. And I just want to say, to anyone who's watching who feels like, okay, well, maybe she finds it easy. She talks a lot, blah, blah, blah. She's very confident. Yes, in this situation where I'm here and I'm with you. But I do find those things, quite challenging. And so for me to find it energizing, I think is kind of a good testimonial for that sort of event.
Agree.
Mm.
Agree. And I think that as you're saying that, I'm thinking of my last experience at a conference where I literally hid out in the hotel room for quite a lot of it to try to re-energize because socializing, I enjoy it, but it really does drain my
Yeah.
energy. I think if I would have been more open
Yeah.
to having relationships, building relationships, connecting, and trusting that on the other side, I could manage boundaries so I didn't end up overwhelmed, then I would have had a better experience at that conference and I would have had I would have built more relationships there. So agree. I'm also introverted, even though it doesn't seem like it on the internet. In person, I am. So that was a helpful caveat.
Okay.
Can
Thanks so
we
much for having me.
Yeah, yeah. Can we add in the comments if you are willing to share where you got all that swag? Can you link us to
Got it all off Etsy. I got everything off Etsy. They're all independent creators. That's my whole vibe. Sarah Bundle is filled with independent creators. My swag is independent creators. It's all Like everything I do is about like supporting individuals who are trying to build their, build their businesses. So yeah, I mean, for sure, I can definitely, and pop some links in, or
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
please. And can just before we end, can you explain what their bundle is and how folks can like get in touch if they want to participate?
what's my type two sentences?
Yeah. You said they were really good, so now you're on the spot.
Oh, I've been working on a tagline for the contributors. So for contributors, this is how I'm going to pitch it: the ultimate collaboration for impact-driven therapreneurs. That's for contributors. For buyers, I need to still work on that tagline, but essentially it's a community project where we support independent course creators, bring them together, promote collaboratively, and get the most number of resources to the most number of therapists, and therefore their clients benefit.
Mm,
So it's an impact driven community project.
I love it. For people who are buying the resources, what kind of resources are typically included?
Well, we just did it once last year, so I don't know who's going to apply this year, but I hope it's all things that are beneficial to therapists in different ways, in marketing, business administration, in therapreneurship. I'm really hoping for some, maybe non-therapists, but therapist adjacent, like business owners who might want therapists in their audience. I'm hoping that they'll put some cool stuff in. I really want a focus of accessibility and inclusivity and diversity. So I'm hoping, I've been doing some research, and I'm hoping to approach some more people with like courses and topics on those areas. So I think it's basically all about like developing our practices in a way that we would all hope to, but we can't necessarily afford that many resources. And so this is a
Right.
way of making it affordable. And I just had this idea about a scholarship program, so I need to try and build that out as well. We'll see. We'll see what happens with
I
that.
love it. I love it. Yeah, because last year there were so many amazing resources in there, and most of us can't afford to pay $1,000 for 14 or 15
Right.
courses to improve ourselves or improve our lives or improve our work with our clients. But it's
Yeah.
priced at such a reasonable level that, it becomes easy to get better because you have so many resources in front of you and for such a reasonable price. I love it. We're going to drop in the comments how you can be a collaborator, and also if you have a wait list for people who might be interested
Yeah,
in.
yeah. Hopefully
Okay.
the website will be ready by then. And maybe just to end on this, that's one of those surprising places where I've made connections. I didn't realize that there would be continuity of connection amongst the contributors, but a lot of those, not a lot of the contributors, but a lot of the people in my mastermind were contributors last time.
Yes.
And so a lot of the contributors are in your mastermind. And so actually, a lot of like ongoing relationships have been born out of that. And I had absolutely no idea that that was going to be a benefit of that. So that's
Yes.
a good example of a surprising place to build connection.
Love it. What a great wraparound. All right, my friends, drop in the comments any other information that you would like to have or like us to riff on for a while. We're happy to do it and hope that this is really helping you to move forward in your own journey of building an online income outside of therapy. Bye, guys.